May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be always acceptable unto thee, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, good morning again. Beginning with just a little liturgical history. The season of Advent evolved in the early 3rd and 4th centuries as a mirror of the season of Lent. Originally, it was a parallel 6 weeks in length, and on the 4th Sunday, both in Lent and in Advent, there was a day that was set apart as a pause for refreshment, for a break in the penitential fast. And the purple or black vestments and paraments that were appropriate for the seasons would be replaced by paraments and vestments of a soft rose color, not pink, but rose. And we have that represented for us still with the rose candle, the third candle of the Advent wreath. In Lent, the 4th Sunday is called Laetare Sunday, and in Advent, Gaudete. The names of those were taken from the first word of the Latin text of the choir introit appointed for those days. Both words can be translated in English as rejoice, although they're slightly different. Laetare is more an inward kind of joy, where Gaudete has a sense of outward expressiveness, more balloons and streamers and poppers and so on, a great outward rejoicing. By the time of the reforms of the calendar and the Council of Trent in the middle 16th century, Advent was abbreviated now to 4 weeks, and Gaudete Sunday moved from the 4th Sunday to the 3rd Sunday. The choral introit, Gaudete in Domino semper iterum dico gaudete, is the text from Philippians 4 that our choir sang in English as our introit this morning. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. So I would pray with all this that we would each one of us hear in this mid-Advent moment a word of encouragement and refreshment, and in the quiet and lovely symbol of that rose candle, continue on our Advent journey. Perhaps thinking of this day not so much as just being one day in the midst of a season, but reflecting an aspect or a word about the character of Christian life that we would be encouraged to explore and cultivate every day, 24/7, 365, in the sense that we are in all of our lives in the midst of an Advent, an in-between time, as we wait for the full realization of the victory that Christ has already won for us, so that our lives, our relationships individually and as a congregational family, in our families and schools, the places where we work, that this word gaudete, rejoice, would settle in as we wait for his coming. So that the world would say, these Christians, how gentle they are, how good, how kind, how generous, how full of joy. These Christians, how they love one another. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I will say, rejoice, the Lord is near. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I've been following the epistle lessons appointed for Advent in our lectionary this year, Year A, in the 3-year lectionary. And I still have a number of these little handouts printing out the 4 lessons for the season. I think they're on the table in the narthex and over in Brooks Hall. And on this 3rd Advent Sunday, we turn to the letter of St. James in the 5th chapter, as Mary read for us just a few moments ago. Turn my page here where I printed it out. here. Be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. Behold, the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient over it until it receives the early and the late rain. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble, brethren, against one another, that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the doors. It's an example of suffering and patience, brethren. Take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. So the full harvest is coming, just as it is supposed to, but slowly and silently. To the naked eye, the world may show no evidence of what Christ has done. The works of darkness continue, human brokenness and sin and strife in our homes and in our families and our city and our nation, even tragically in the life of the church, perhaps most of all in the people we look at when we look into the mirror in the morning. But be patient, says James. Be patient and trust in the Lord, who has begun a good work, a perfect work, and who will bring it to completion. Establish your hearts in hope. Trust him and trust in this process of transformation. Trust in what he has promised, what he has demonstrated for us in the victory of his cross. Patience is a difficult thing. It seems to be especially rare in our time and in our culture, with the mentality of racing to the finish, the mentality of buy now, pay later. We want what we want. We want it when? Yesterday. Some have said we in our time suffer from a universal and collective form of attention deficit disorder. It's reflected so often, so many ways, in marriages and family life, in our sense of vocation and career, in the crazy way the misuse of drugs and alcohol and money and sex and all the rest kind of cascades around us. It's a world of secret potions and magic wands, politicians and salesmen and religious leaders on every side promising us the moon. Just buy now and pay later. The latest diet book on the supermarket magazine rack says 30 days to a new you. If only it were that easy. So often we push ourselves, we push our kids, we push each other, sometimes just a nudge, but sometimes with violence of words and actions, because we can't wait for what we think we need to have. We can't wait to get where we think we need to be. But Advent is about this patient waiting. It's about recentering, about calling us back from the edge, calling us away from the storm of busyness. It's about discovering and exploring and finding the deep contentment of a patient life. Waiting for Christmas each year is a little part of it, kind of an annual discipline, just to see if we still have it in us to wait. Waiting for Jesus to be known and to make a difference in our lives and in our world. Waiting for him to come again in power and great glory. We lean forward with anticipation, but we are called to do so with a heart that is content in this moment, with a spirit that rests in confidence. Advent isn't just about 4 weeks in December. It's a reset button for the whole year, for how we understand ourselves, for how we live. It's about the character of our Christian life, about who we really can become as we turn to him in faith, as we join ourselves to him, as we place ourselves in his hands. Be patient, therefore, for the coming of the Lord. Again, may this holy season of Advent, especially this Gaudete Sunday, be a source of enrichment, a time of refreshment, a time of deep and patient contentment, of grace and joy and peace. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God.